Bianca Belair and Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship on SmackDown. That's how I'm going to identify it from now on. So, first of all, I thought that this match was I felt the 15 minutes of this match. I might have been a little lower.
Well, because
on
the crowd was completely dead for it.
They were not into this. It was a big drop from the previous match, and I don't know if necessarily that was just that they were not into the characters or felt that this was not a compelling challenger. They certainly gave you a meaningful ending to this, but let's get into it first. And it's Asuka being knocked off the floor with a handspring, and then Asuka yanks her by the hair. And this was her offense for 90% of the match, grabbing Bianca by the hair, and this referee having really no inclination to stop her from grabbing this hair throughout the whole match. It was constant. So Asuka then slips out of the punches, grabs her by the braid and pulls her down, and is delivering kicks, goes to the Asuka lock, but then Belair rolls on top of her, tries for a glam slam. They pick up the pace at this point, and then Asuka drags her by the hair to the floor. But this time, Belair turns it around and sends Asuka into the steps. The referee separates them in the corner, and Belair avoids the mist out of the mouth of Asuka. So this felt like last week on SmackDown, where the mist had no impact on Belair. So my thought was it's going to be a 1 week delay until we hear that her eyes are burning from this mist.
Oh, it's a slow release mist.
It's the experimental mist. So she lifts her up for the KOD, and Asuka counters to the armbar, but Belair slams herself free. And then as Asuka is over by the rope, she sprays her hand with the mist, and Belair lifts her up for the KOD. And Asuka gouges her in the eyes with the experimental mist from her hand that God knows what it's doing to her hand. And this blinds Bianca and leads to a head kick. And Asuka pins her in 14 minutes and 58 seconds, ending her modern era record Raw Women's title reign. And now we have Asuka as the Raw Women's Champion on SmackDown.
Yes.
Couldn't even have a Raw talent win this back. I thought this was a really goofy finish at the end. And I've got to say that this match to me was, it did not click for me. I felt it to be very plodding. And I just, it just felt as though it was just sort of going in pace, and it wasn't escalating as the match continued for me. And the ending to me was just a little bit too goofy for me for like what should be a really significant title change, and more so felt like a way to get this belt on Asuka, which I'm not opposed to. As we talked about in the preview, I'm fine with them flipping this title to freshen things up, but it almost felt this was more about protecting Bianca than it was crowning Asuka as well. But it continues the feud.
Well, I think for somebody like Bianca to lose the championship, it had to be through nefarious means. You know, she's still like being portrayed as like this incredibly dominant babyface, and I think she needed to cheat. And a way for somebody like Asuka to cheat was through some variation of the mist. I didn't mind the finish at all. I thought it was somewhat clever as a way to get out of the KOD.
We had the mist all over Belair's eyes. She's blinded. This referee, like, it was just, the whole match was just about like Bianca Belair, or I could say Asuka could do no wrong here. There was,
I mean, you should be taking that up with every person who's ever had to referee a missed match, John, you know, because that's, if you don't see it, then it didn't happen. I thought what hurt this match was just the lack of crowd interaction with it. I don't think it was any fault of the performers. They were trying to build and escalate through their actions. The crowd just wasn't buying it. And so who do you blame? I think for me, it's first of all, the lack of attention that they've really given this story. They've really not figured out a way to make this match feel compelling beyond people exchanging miss, dodging miss, maybe dodging miss. Yeah. But I think it's also just a general sort of like apathy towards Bianca Belair's championship reign at this point. She has been completely dominant without appropriate opposition to make her feel interesting. We haven't found like that great obstacle for her to actually overcome. She hasn't cut great promos. She hasn't necessarily been given the space to cut great promos. So, I mean, you know, some of the fault is definitely on the production. Some of the fault is definitely on her too. In either case, the run has has run its course. She has achieved the record. Time to cut it short. Give her a big obstacle to overcome, and that's in the form of Asuka. I don't think this takes Bianca Belair out of the title picture at all. Like, I think she's still the best option on SmackDown. She's the lead babyface on SmackDown. So ultimately, this is all still in service of Bianca Belair, in my opinion, winning the championship back. But for now,
with Becky predisposed in another feud, Bianca is about the only babyface on.
Becky's on Raw.
Oh my God, I can't, dude.
You need a chart. Yeah, you'll get there at some point. I mean, Charlotte at this point, I believe, is also another babyface, but I don't. I mean, you can. Isn't she coming off of Mania? She was. She laughed at Rhea Ripley, right? She smiled after losing to Ripley, right? That was a babyface build for Charlotte. Anyway, they could do Asuka versus Charlotte in the meantime, but ultimately, I see a destination being Bianca Belair winning this championship back sometime before Mania or at WrestleMania
with a hazmat suit on.
That's the goggles, at least. Please, you should have learned by now. I think Asuka needs this boost too. You know, she's come back here as a sort of murder clown gimmick that I really feel like they kind of fumbled around WrestleMania. Like, she's been back since Rumble, and I don't think they've really taken advantage of like this renewed sort of like aggression and look that she's had. So hopefully this is that. I think this is a perfect opportunity, much like with Trish, you know, to attach somebody from NXT to her, to help elevate her, to give Asuka a mouthpiece really as well. You know, build a stable around.
Didn't someone suggest Asuka being paired with Isla Dawn and
I did.
Kaylee Ray? Yeah,
that maybe
that would be those great. Characters mesh together.
I think a Blair Davenport would potentially be really great with Asuka as well. So, you know, there's a lot of potential. I hope to see them grow this.